Hello and welcome to the fourth installment in our wicked Tamiya TT-02 Type-S build. From this episode on, we will be starting to put in some of the more exciting components of this build. This episode will be split into two parts, with part B being a full and detailed installation of this brushless system on our project car, the TT-02 Type-S. But as the title suggests, today we'll be unboxing and reviewing this amazing HobbyWing speed controller and motor that I bought for the sum of £170 brand new. As you can see, the speed controller and motor comes in this really nice looking quality box, and inside they are packaged individually in their own boxes. So this is the combo speed controller and motor kit from HobbyWing's Xerun series. Specifically, the motor is the Xerun V3.1 a censored brushless motor, and this particular one I chose is 10.5 turns, and I have seen some very good reviews for this equipment. This is the motor, 10.5 turns as I mentioned, with some information printed on the sides. Now this you can pick up for around £65 to £70 new. It is rated at 3800 kilovolts and weighs 170 grams according to Schumacher Racing, which is quite a bit. It's similar to a stock brushed Tamiya 540 sized motor. The speed controller is the Xerun V3.1. Now, with 2S LiPos or 4 to 6 cell NIMH batteries, you can only run motors greater than 3.5 turn on-road and 5.5 turn off-road. But with 3S LiPos or 7 to 9 cell NIMH batteries, you can only run motors greater than 5.5 turn on-road and 8.5 turn off-road. If we remove the outer case, the box underneath is exactly the same. If we look inside the box for the motor, we will find nothing. That is because I have had the speed controller and motor all soldered together from the company I bought it from, and it should all be in the speed controller box. Still in this box though are a couple of bits, including these two wires. These wires are actually exactly the same apart from the length, and they are the sensor wires which will go from the ESC to the motor, with identical connectors on either side. Also included is the instruction manual, which is very useful. I recommend you read it fully because there is a lot of good information in it, especially when it comes to fitting the motor later on in the video and setting it up. When I get the programming box, I'll put out a video going through all the customizable settings of this brushless system in detail. There is information on timing, gearing, assembly, and if you should need it, maintenance parts. And as you will see in this video, I will be needing this assembly diagram very early on. So, if we put that away for now, and let's take a look at the hardware. Again, as I mentioned, this is the V3.1 speed controller, which came with the combo set. Now it looks like the guys who assembled the speed controller motor put in this paper to stop it shaking about, but there it is. In the box also comes a second fan, which as far as I can tell is identical to the one that's on the ESC now. They both have 5V stamped on the back of them, and they both seem to be the same size. You also get 4 bits of heat shrink tubing, which weren't used when soldering the wires, unfortunately, and the instruction manual, which you will need for setting up the ESC. And again, it's got some really good information in there for motor tuning, turbo timing, etc. And you also get some nice stickers. If you look at the motor now in more detail, you can see on the back there is this little dial for advancing or retarding the timing. The manual suggests for 10.5 to 25.5 turn motors, this should be set to 40 degrees. And for 3.5 to 8.5 turn motors, this should be set to 30 degrees. Now I also got them to solder the Deans on, so fingers crossed it should be ready to fit in the car and go. One thing which I wasn't expecting, and I don't actually know if it comes with the motor or the ESC, are these capacitors soldered onto the speed controller. You can see, instead of using the heat shrink tubing, there are these little fuel hose spaces on the bottom of the wires. That port there is where the sensor wire goes from the motor. On top, you already have the fan mounted and plugged in. And that extra port there on the front is where you can connect the programming box and change all sorts of fun settings, which I'll definitely show you in a detailed video later on. On the front of the motor, as you expect, you have the threaded holes for fitting the motor to the motor mount. And you can see there a pretty cool little badge with the motor turns on it. In this case, 10.5. And that's it. So if we take a few measurements, just to get an idea of the size of this motor. The outer diameter of the motor is 36 millimeters. The length, not including the shaft, is 54 millimeters. Slightly different to that specified on their website, but maybe they didn't include this little shoulder. The little round bit just before the shaft, this little shoulder I mentioned, has a diameter of 11 millimeters. And the shaft diameter, of course, is the standard 3.175 millimeters. If we also take a look at the speed controller, it's about 38 millimeters by 31 millimeters along the base. And including this side strip of wires, that 31 millimeter changes to about 38 millimeters. And one thing I forgot to measure earlier was the exposed shaft length, which is 12 millimeters. Again, different to the 12.5 specified online, but I haven't included this little shoulder in my measurement. Now this little flap here, I was initially really impressed with, and I thought it was a little door to lock the wires in place, which is why I'm showing it off. Actually, it just turned out to be broken. And on that note, we will end here. So please make sure you check out part 2 of this video on our channel, and we will be looking step by step at exactly how this motor fixes to a car and how the whole system looks mounted on a chassis, specifically our race build Tamiya TT-02. So thank you for watching, hope you learned something, please subscribe and I'll see you soon.